So we're really delighted to have our guest today, Jennifer Brady from Development Without Limits. Very excited to have her expertise for you all. So Jennifer, let's just jump right in here and just give folks a quick understanding of the organization and what you all do, and then we can jump into some specifics.
Sure, thanks. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here. So Development Without Limits was founded in 2000 with the belief that every young person really must get what they need to fulfill their own human potential and pursuit of happiness. So we have found that that's especially true, of course, for young people coming from communities that have historically experienced racism, redlining, and deep poverty. And so when we have adults that are working with youth, our focus is really on building skills, knowledge, and actions that they can use as they work alongside young people. And so DWL provides professional learning and consulting services to support staff and leaders who work with young people to do their jobs better. Really to focus on youth-driven programming, anti-racism, healing-centered work, and fun, making sure that young people are able to learn through fun.
And I can tell you, Delmar and I both came in working in the DC area around that time as well. And there were so many exciting things really emerging in this thing called positive youth development at that time when you all were founded. And I know we have a lot of history in common with folks from your organization and where Delmar and I worked. So one of the things I've really, if I can say, enjoyed during the pandemic, but I'm going to, has been Development Without Limits blog posts. I mean, they've been super helpful. And you
great.
And your team that have put them together. And believe me, we'll have a link here at the end for you all to go back and check out some previous ones, but they've just been on point during it all, in my opinion, and I've shared it widely.
Thanks.
But it turns out that as we kind of scheduled you for this segment to really begin thinking about the summer and what us youth workers can do best to help meet young people's needs as we kind of emerge from all of this, it turned out that you all had a blog post come out just a few days ago, really around this topic. So once again, Delmar, we got lucky. That the timing all kind of worked out well.
We're in sync. We're in sync.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
So there's one of the things that you talk about in the post, and I wanted to kind of just tease out a little bit is you talk about, I mean, certainly there's a call to action from Secretary of Education and others around really all of our responsibility to meet the needs, the emotional needs in particular of young people. But there's funding actually named and available as part of this kind of call. Help us understand what that is, and maybe where folks who didn't know that, where they might begin to ask questions and look for.
Sure. So there's a record amount of funding available for the America Recovery Program Rescue Plan. So it's the ESSER funds is what the name is, and it's under America Cares. Really what this is money that is dedicated from the federal government, dedicated to support schools and youth serving organizations to support young people and help them get ready to come back to school. So I think looking at the After School Alliance is a really great website. They've got lots of information about how programs can access those funds. So my understanding is it'll be federal money that goes to the states. States will disperse, but programs, youth serving programs, do qualify to get the funding. Out of all of that funding conversation, though, of course, something that's kind of needling me is we don't want the funding to drive program decision making. We do want programs to be funded. We want programs to access those funds, and we want young people to get services that they need and be able to participate in opportunities. But we also just I always want to encourage programs to really be thinking about addressing the needs of their young people and communities first, and then saying, how do I get the funding to support what we need to do, rather than contorting to, get whatever, say the words that the funding requires. There's a lot right now. It's focused on learning loss and social emotional learning, but the kind of the key words are learning loss. And so that's, a little bit troubling term, I think, but there's lots of money available. So I think we should go for it and try to do our work.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, you got some tips for those out there that are looking to kind of, I guess, pinpoint those strategies as we move forward? I know that's part of your most recent blog. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, totally. So I think, well, like I started to say, the first thing is to find out what the young people and families in your service area really need and want. I think there's a kind of broad thought that young people have experienced learning loss, but we know that actually young people have probably learned a lot this year about how they learn, about how to live and work in isolation, how to make dinner. I don't know, like lots of different things. We've learned that learning doesn't stop, is my point. But I think really tuning into what it is the young people in your community and what families are needing is the first place to go. So that's, what programs are doing anyways. And then, or, presumably they're doing that anyways. And then I think it's prioritizing. So one of the things that's challenging, as you both well know, it's hard to choose what the focus should be of a summer program or an out of school time program. You can't do everything. You can't solve all the problems in the world in one 6-week block of time, or whatever block of time you have. So you really have to prioritize around what's important for the young people in your program. And that means asking families, talking to the teachers, hosting a town hall, hosting Zoom meetings. You're really shaking the trees, which I think is, it sounds like, oh, that's not rocket science. And yet so many of our clients still don't do it. They don't just pick up the phone and call families. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to do that. But it pays off, because then you're meeting, then you're actually designing programs that meet the needs of the young people you're serving. So
one of the things that just real quick that in our conversation before was I said to you, hey, I'm really concerned that there's a lot of trauma and baggage that young people are going to be showing up to summer programs with, that people who run maybe a traditional art camp may not be staffed to address. And I hadn't seen a lot of funding specifically toward that. And that's all true. And you have some good tips on that. But one of the things you said back was, you know what, we have to make sure, though, knowing that we're still keeping things fun, that it's been a drag for everybody. And let's make sure that we're at least keeping fun in the forethought. So talk a little bit more about that part, because that really resonated with me.
Yeah, I think that's part of the trauma-informed programming is, as youth program providers, we need to create structures and relationships where young people feel safe and able to learn and have fun. And so part of programming is the work that we've always done in positive youth development, building positive relationships and creating spaces where young people feel safe. And then within that, their brains that have been traumatized through this year and maybe beyond, are more open and able to be creative and imagine and learn through play. So I think from the staff perspective, we're doing similar things that we've done previously, but maybe with more intentionality to really ensure that we're building relationships. So taking extra care to build positive relationships with young people and provide those spaces for safety, so that young people can have learning experiences that are enjoyable. I mean, in my opinion, this is what's really been lacking. I mean, I think teachers and youth program providers have been doing everything they can to make Zoom learning fun and engaging, and yet it doesn't feel the same. Del, you could probably speak to that. It just doesn't feel the same. So I think as much as we can do when going to in-person programming or blended programming, we want to focus on building those spaces that are youth friendly and really relationship driven, and then can focus on enjoyment. I mean, that's part of our focus. Is we want young people to feel like this is engaging. This is what they want to be doing, that there's enjoyment in learning. And so that's where I think we've got a big role.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I know that, again, because of the pandemic, there's become a much more comfortability with youth organizations with being able to themselves do professional development through online, through video, these kinds of things. And I know you all have really stepped up to the plate to continue to do what you all have already been doing really well. Talk about some of the programs and services that you all offer that folks out there can begin to access if they're not already, now that we've developed this kind of habit now of being online and seeking out resources.
Yeah. So one thing we've heard from clients is that they can do staff development remotely. You know, even in like New York City, it's challenging to bring everybody together. You know, the travel in person has always been preferred in our field, but it's has a lot of challenges. And so shifting to this Zoom culture, our remote culture, I think has opened up a lot of possibilities and have taught us all that we can do this, and that maybe staff development remotely is okay and effective, and definitely more efficient, especially as we're bringing on staff for summer, because, you know, summer staffing comes in waves. People are being hired now, and then they don't start for a couple months or several weeks, or they're hired the day before and they've got to get quick staff development right away. So one thing that we're doing, we just launched our self-guided online PD that is really focused on preparing staff for summer. So staff that haven't worked in summer programs before, or staff who are coming back to summer, we've got self-guided trainings that organizations or individuals can access. And so it's been so fun to develop and pull all of our best thinking together and all the stuff that we know staff need. So we've got that.
Cool. I know one of the things you had on your blog in regards to preparing for the summer and things like that are some things that I've actually used in the classroom, like creating a tournament bracket when you're talking about that face off, and using things like Jamboard, which we're really familiar with. Can you talk a little bit about how you utilize that? Because that's a great way to engage learners.
So yeah, so for youth-facing staff, so people who are working directly with young people, I think there are a ton of different strategies if you are in person or remote or doing the hybrid kind of thing. So one of the tools that we've also kind of put out there is this whole set of live online learning activities. So we've got a whole bunch of different kind of icebreaker and community builders that you can do whether you are in person or remote. And so, for example, there might be activities where young people are moving around. You ask them to, well, we did one that's like kind of a virtual drum circle. So just grab what is nearby and start a beat. And in Zoom, of course, it's all a little weird. It's not all fitting together, but the point of that is really to gel the group, build community, and enjoy what you're doing. Have some fun with that. So those are some of the things that we are putting out there as just activities to do. We're thinking that people are going to be maybe going back and forth between in-person and online. Like if there is a COVID scare, then you got to shut down for a week and go to online. So we're trying to provide activities that are really quick and easy to pull. So in that moment that you're like, oh no, I have an online class, suddenly what should I do here? So so we've got a stack of activities for that. It seems like we kind of need to be prepared for every scenario all the time, which is exhausting for educators and youth-facing staff and for leaders. I mean, this is a lot. This is a lot of juggling.
Yeah.
So, so we're doing our best to try to provide what we can to support everybody.
That's I appreciate you going through some of those. That's just some good stuff there, as Delmar and I like to say, some good stuff. One of we could go all day. I got one more kind of question area, and then we'll kind of bring that to a close. But also in our kind of earlier conversation, we talked about you beginning to see and hear about, at least anecdotally, that there is a scarcity potentially of youth workers or folks who normally do seasonal camps. There's maybe some reluctance this year. So help kind of give folks a greater confidence, or things that they maybe can research, or what it is that might allow them to cross that line and actually continue to serve young people this summer.
Yeah, I think that is what we're hearing, that, you know, people who are working during the school day are tired and maybe typically would work in the summer programs, but this year are saying, you know what, I just can't do it. Or young people who are maybe high school or college are coming up to say, hey, maybe I want to work in a program, but I have never worked with young people before. So I feel like we've got two sets of people. So one, the new staff, we want to try to energize them and give them that big view of, this is a really important job that you're doing. And our focus is to build positive relationships with young people and support them in having fun this summer while they are learning. And then staff that are kind of on the fence, like, I have typically worked in summer programs, but not sure I can do it this year. One of the things we're doing is we're hosting a, you know,
that's some of our listeners calling already.
Yeah, right. Well, one thing we're doing, we're hosting, I don't know if this is going to work, if this is a good idea or not good idea, but we're going to have a leadership retreat. So self-guided series of sessions where after school and summer and out of school time providers can kind of take themselves on a retreat, where we're going to focus on mindfulness practice, building your own healing centered work, and was mindfulness, healing, and building your own emotional intelligence. So the idea is, invest in yourself as a staff member and as a leader of youth programs. Spend the time working on getting yourself ready this summer so that you're ready to go back in the fall. So whether you're ready to do summer programming or not, it's okay. Like, don't beat yourself up over it. It's okay. If you need a break, take a break and spend the time like planning and getting yourself back in touch with what you need so that you can be ready for the fall. I think that's our big message, is just to really take time for self-care. And we've got this, you know, leadership retreat thing that we're doing to offer some food for thought and guidance on that.
Wow, that's really important. And we'll certainly share that information with it as we distribute this excerpt. We wanted to do this a little differently because we wanted this part to stand alone on its own, because I know a lot of our audience is very much interested in the content, particularly today. Our full broadcast will be available sometime early next week, and this will be a part of it for sure. But we will make this one available separately. So we want folks to be able to consume this as quickly as possible, because there's a lot. Summer's right here. Delmar was just talking about, he's already planning graduation stuff coming up in the next month. So we're right up on it. Anyway, Jennifer, we couldn't thank you enough for taking some time with us today. And and giving us just some really, really rich content. Very happy for you to have joined us today.
Great. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great day.